how you are connected to the force is a really fundamental fulcrum point or locus point in this, in the summation of forces. Basically, how your body connects to the force is going to, again, affect how all the forces work through your body. And there are lots of different ways that you can make changes to this to create different work for essentially the same, moving the resistance through the same range of motion. The simplest example that I'll show you here with a row is basically simply just changing the orientation of the handle itself. That is changing how that row is working, whether you're in the high hand or the vertical hand or working underhand. So lots of different ways to change a range of motion simply by changing hand position. This is something that is available to you working with resistance this way. It's not necessarily available when you're working with other types of resistance. This is something that allows you to create different angles of work just by changing the handle itself. Now, besides being able to change the angle of the handle, you can also change the actual nature of the connection to the resistance. For example, there are lots of different handles in the market that work different ways, features that I can demonstrate different ways to work with resistance. One way is simply to work with a strap. I'll just flip this around here, so we're working a little closer to the arc. So here with the strap, now you can see that I've got the same row going on, but I'm not having to grip it. It is being supported by my hand on a strap. This allows me to do all kinds of different work as well, whether it's rehab or heavy work, without engaging prehensile. One approach to working with straps and belts and harnesses for pulling work involves working with the pieces over your shoulders. So there's one way to work this way, very sensible. It's a higher center of gravity than when you're wearing it as a belt, so you have to be mindful that you don't let yourself get pulled back up, because it's a lot easier to get pulled off your feet when you're using the high harness anchor. But it's a great force to work with. You can pull a lot of resistance that way, and you'll find that you can set these harnesses up again simply to do different work in different ranges of motion. There's a whole practice of using force this way with straps for concussion prevention. This is simply using elastic resistance to create resistance with a strap for your neck. One way to work at the connection point is to create an asymmetric force. That is, use a handle and then have the handle basically working so that the force is only at one end of the handle. Now, this is essentially your rip tool approach, but obviously in a handle you've got all kinds of sports-specific possibilities and ways to work the force through the end range of motion at that angle with the asymmetric force that is very useful. I've found working particularly with athletes, boxers and ball players, that having that extra range of motion at the end with the asymmetric force is a very, very useful thing. So lots of specific demands can be met by designing the connection point specifically.